I am responsible for everything that happens in my life. Things don't happen to me, they happen because of me. Like, I'm going to own it. I'm going to be true to myself. I'm going to stop pretending to be what I think other people need me to be. And I am going to take responsibility for my life.
Welcome to Get Real, Get Results. I'm your host, Chantell Preston. I've got over 2 decades of experience in healthcare operations, project management, and consulting, and I've navigated the dance of career advancement and personal satisfaction firsthand. Get Real, Get Results is your go-to resource for navigating the complexities of a modern-day success without sacrificing your well-being. So buckle up and get ready to challenge the status quo, shatter limiting beliefs, and embark on a transformative journey toward a more authentic, balanced, and fulfilling life. This is Get Real, Get Results, and I'm honored to have you join me.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us with Get Real, Get Results. I'm Chantell Preston. Super excited today. We've got a great guest. Kerry and I met each other a couple years ago now. I guess it's been. We keep getting older every day. But Kerry Siggins is with me today. Kerry is the CEO of StoneAge. They're a leading global industrial cleaning company, and they're known for their innovative employee-owned model and award-winning culture. As a thought leader in transformation leadership and an author of The Ownership Mindset, Kerry brings her unique insight on empowering teams and building a thriving workplace. I always love to read those because, again, I usually miss out on something, but let's just get down to the meat, Kerry. So the reality is Kerry is a phenomenal leader. When I met Kerry, she really opened my eyes in regards to how she was leading her organization. As I mentioned, they're a chemical cleaning company out of Colorado. And I was really intrigued by how Kerry has taken this organization and morphed it into an employee-owned company. And when we were looking to sell our company a long time ago, we looked at an ESOP. We looked at a lot of different ways of how to doing it. So I was really intrigued on how she was able to pull that off. So, Kerry, thank you so much for joining us today on my podcast. I always enjoy my time with you. So tell us a little bit about the ownership mindset. So talk to me about why you were inspired to write this book and how it's really impacted you and your culture within your organization.
Sure. So the ownership mindset is the mindset that I am responsible for everything that happens in my life. Things don't happen to me, they happen because of me. And it, in my opinion, is the most empowering mindset that you can have, because when you take personal responsibility, even if something happens that you have no control over, you still are responsible for how you respond to it. And that's the only thing that we can really own, right? Is our actions, our responses, our communication, our effort. That's what the ownership mindset is. And I have learned just how powerful it is because it helped me change my life. When I was in my 20s, I had substance abuse issues, which was accumulation of a lot of things: childhood trauma, a very driven, ambitious personality, a need to feel the need to prove myself and want to be recognized. And I used substances to cope with being really unhappy and miserable because of the combination of all of these things. And on Labor Day of 2006, I accidentally overdosed. And what came from all of this as I started to really examine my life on whether or not I wanted to live or if I wanted to die. And if I wanted to live, how did I want to live? I really became clear that I had this victim mentality, that I wasn't really owning my situation and my decisions and taking responsibility for where I was. And so I embarked on this journey of deciding that, I'm going to own it. I'm going to be true to myself. I'm going to stop pretending to be what I think other people need me to be. And I am going to take responsibility for my life. That, at the same time, happened when I got hired by StoneAge, by the founders, to take over their company, which is a crazy story, but it happened just a few months after my overdose. They did not know my story at the time. They know it now. And it was an employee-owned company where it was encouraged to think and act like owners. And so how perfect is it in my journey that I am personally owning it, and now I get to work for a company where I actually get to own it, and that we create this whole ethos around owning it. And so that's how it all started to come together. And it wasn't what it is today back then. Obviously, it's evolved over the past 18 years since I came to work at StoneAge and embarked on this journey of healing and recovery and taking responsibility for my life. But that's really where it started. That's the origin story of the ownership mindset.
That's amazing. So there's so many things to unravel here. Okay. So let's just get started and jump into it. So talk about, I mean, you started talking about initially, it was really that take responsibility for my own actions. And you weren't really on the business side. It was more personally. And so as you've engrossed as the CEO and continue to grow this organization, are you working with your teams to not only utilize that professionally, but also personally? And if so, how?
Yes, absolutely. So it's really hard to own anything in leadership if you don't have good self-leadership. If you're not owning your own actions, your own leadership, the way that you're showing up. So I think that leadership always starts with self-leadership. And if you think about self-leadership, right, we're doing it every day, whether we're doing it well or we're doing it poorly. And so to be a great people leader, you have to be a great self-leader. So it starts with the self. And then, as you build upon your self-leadership skills, it makes it so much easier to role model the kinds of behaviors and actions that you want to see in others and inspire them to also own it, which is, how you start to create this whole ownership thinking mindset within your culture. And so, I think that it always has to start with the individual and thinking about and asking them, what do you want with your life? What's important to you? What are you good at? What do you not want to do? What are your dreams and your goals? And then let's figure out how to help you get there through your career, because let's face it, like how we work, that's the mode, right? The vehicle for us to be able to create the life that we want. And so, I believe that they're intertwined, that you can't really separate personal development and professional development. We can develop as professionals, but we have to be willing to grow as human beings, which is the personal development side of it.
Well, okay, so let's take this back, because you said 18 years. You've been there for 18 years. Did I understand that correctly? That's a long time. Most of us haven't had that long of a stint at any company. So talk to me about that, because I noticed that throughout my career, it was very different 15 years ago than it is now. We used to not really care about the whole person. With your company, it was a little bit different because they already had that employee mindset of wanting them to take ownership. So when you came on board, what were really some of the opportunities for you to continue and improve upon that? Was it already there because they were employee owned, or was this something that you continued to help build with them?
The framework was definitely there. Our founders absolutely started the company because they wanted to create great jobs for themselves and for their employees. And so it had a very family-like feel. And it was really small when I took over. I mean, it was $8 million in revenue and 30 people. And so it did have this family-like feel. And it was about flexibility and really stepping up and owning your role in the company, because they were owners. It was a different type of ownership back then, but we also had profit sharing, and it was smaller, right? Where there was a big influence with that core group of people. So the foundation was there, but there wasn't this intentional development of the ownership mindset, of really teaching people how to think and act like owners. It was kind of more of this like expectation. We're going to give you this great opportunity. We care about you. You need to step up. But as we've grown so much, especially over this last decade, I realized like we need to help people understand what it means to think and act like an owner. So when they come into the organization, they can be more successful, because a lot of times, like that's not even wanted or encouraged in the workplace, right? Just do your job. Don't ask questions. Don't give us your opinion. Just do what I paid you to do. And that stifles ownership thinking. It makes it really scary for people to be willing to speak up. So we need to train that out of people. So now it is this whole ethos that we have around owning it. We've created all kinds of programs around it. We have an employee experience council that's called the Own It Committee. We have Own It training. We have Own It chats, which is our performance management system. We do everything around this whole idea of owning it. And so it is much, much more intentional now, which is really powerful, because we all know that when we do things with intention, right, it grows, right? What we think about is what informs our actions, and we put action and especially repetition into it. Like that's how we become masters. And so we've really got a lot of mastery around this idea of an ownership culture because we put so much intention into it.
Well, so elaborate on that. So I'm writing little notes down as you're talking. You've got all these programs that you've put into
Mhm.
place. Give us like a high level 5 step, or these are some of the main things that we want to teach our employees or that we think are most valuable for them to understand as being an owner and that can be beneficial to the
Yeah.
organization.
So the ownership mindset is made up of 3 core values. Practice self-leadership, right? So how you're showing up as yourself, responsibility for understanding, responsibility for your effort, your actions, your attitude, those types of things. The second one is be a great teammate. So how are you showing up for your team? And then the third one is around delivering on the StoneAge Assurance Promise, which is our promise to our customers to make sure that we help them do their jobs on time, on budget, as easily as possible so they go home safely to their families every night. We're in a very dangerous industry. Our products are very dangerous. So we do our whole training program around those values. And so we might have a particular training on, from a self-leadership perspective, of how to own the stories that you're telling yourself. That was the most recent one that I did. So, humans have we have biases, and we use those biases to fill in gaps in information. And usually we fill that information gaps with negative stories, and we need to own those negative stories because they matter in the workplace. It creates angst, it creates stress, it creates gossip, and especially when these stories aren't true. So, right, that's a kind of training around self-leadership. Then we do training around be a great teammate. So a training that we recently did is how to effectively give peers feedback. We are a culture of feedback, and everybody gets feedback from their managers and from their peers. So how do you do that in a way that builds relationships and is helpful and not harmful? And then delivering on the StoneAge Assurance Promise. Those are more of like the practical trainings that we will have around, like skills trainings or things like that help people advance them advance professionally so that they can be better at their jobs and service our customers better. So it's all about all built around those 3 values.
That's fascinating. And that's awesome. And I mean, a lot of companies most of the employees don't even know what their values are within the organization. So I love the fact that that's ingrained and you're taking the time and putting the resources towards, empowering everyone in that aspect. And do you ever have employees that, push back on this, or you ever have employees that push back?
Oh yeah. I mean, look, this is not for everybody. I mean, our culture isn't for not everybody loves working for us. And so we have to bring people along, but there are absolutely people who don't make it because they don't want that. They don't want to take that responsibility, or they're uncomfortable with giving feedback, or they're uncomfortable with the vulnerability that personal growth brings in the workplace. And so that's okay. That's not a right or a wrong. It's just not what it takes to be successful at StoneAge. And so we help bring people along, but we also help people leave if it's not the right culture. One of the things that we do, we call it mindful transitions. I think it's a really powerful way to be able to have a conversation around this isn't working. And it can be driven by the employee or by management. So if there's performance issues or somebody isn't embodying the own it mindset, we have those conversations, and then we can say, hey, look, if this isn't the right place, let's just have that conversation. If you don't want to be here, what would it take? Would you like to be able to go start looking for a job right now? And we'll start looking to backfill for you. An employee can come and say, we just recently had somebody who came and said, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to go do my own thing. And I'm going to go start this dream. And I'd like to do that in 3 months. And I just want to have an open conversation with you about what that looks like. And we're like 100%, we support entrepreneurialism. That's not a problem at all. Let's work on what that transition will look like and how it'll benefit both of us. And so you can have these conversations like adults rather than, I have to put a 2-week notice in, or, I just have to fire somebody. Like those things still happen, of course. But I think you can have these really meaningful conversations with people where it's just not working out for whatever reason. And it doesn't have to be this like big, ugly thing. It can just be a mindful transition. So that's one of the ways that we handle it when it's just not the right fit for somebody.
I totally appreciate that. One of the things I love about you is you're very transparent. You're very direct, kind of similar to me. You always know where you stand with people. I love that because I think we sometimes take for granted that those hard conversations are actually beneficial versus a negative. And like you just said, let's have a mindful transition. Sometimes people just don't fit. And, I always say my greatest, successes are those people that end up leaving me because they're like, hey, I've learned so much. Now I'm going to go out in the world and I'm going to share it with others. So to me, that's a positive, not a negative. And so I love how you guys are really encouraging that. And it's not, hey, I'm embarrassed and I don't want to talk about this. It's more of, hey, let's talk about it and make sure that you're in the best place. And I think
Totally agree.
what I'm hearing you say is we want to provide an environment for people to be their best, both personally and professionally. And so we're going to spend this time and energy investing in our employees to be able to do that.
Exactly.
And how big are you guys now, Kerry? You said you had 30 employees when you started. Where are you now?
Yeah, we're over 200 and close to 100 million in revenue. All organic growth, no outside investment. It's just this nice steady growth that we've had and really been able to do some fantastic things, very innovative company, and not lose who we are as we've been growing, really being able to intentionally build this culture as we've grown. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Congratulations, because everybody knows I love badass women, and you're one of them. And I love to see how much you've grown and how the fact that you've been there for so long and
Yeah.
you're so well respected by your staff. It's a pleasure to watch your journey. And so let's talk a little bit more about your journey. As most of you guys are going to realize when you start, looking up Kerry, she's got all kinds of things going on. So she's got her podcast, you wrote your book. Talk a little bit about why you decided to do the Ownership Mindset book.
Yeah. So, well, one, I did it during COVID because I wasn't traveling and I've always been a writer. And I said, I know I had a book in me, so I want to write a book. So the timing was perfect. But really what I wanted to do was share my philosophy on how to lead yourself well and how to build a really great team and company through this lens of owning everything that happens in your life. And so it's just been so profound for me. Like I said, it's what allowed me to change my life. It's what allowed me to come back from literally on the floor of my apartment in Austin, Texas, moving my whole life with no job and no money back to Colorado and now living my dream life. And that all comes from owning it. And I share my story. I do a lot of speaking and I can see the impact that it has on people when it's like, wow, if she could do that, like maybe I can do this hard thing. And so I wanted to be able to share that story and inspiration for people to do those hard things, to look at their self-leadership and to look at how they're building a company and how do you use the ownership mindset to do really amazing things with yourself, your team, and your organization.
Well, first of all, thank you for your vulnerability. I mean, a lot of us don't, I know you and I can sit here and talk without, the whole world listening, and we'd probably share a lot, but it's really hard to share some of those challenging times in our lives of when we may not have made the best decisions. And I have a lot of people say, oh, you're perfect now. No, I'm still make a lot of, bad mistakes. Let's not kid ourselves, right? Now I've learned to, pivot quicker than I used to when I was younger. So thank you for sharing that vulnerability, because I do think people think, oh, it's easy. Everyone can do it. It takes a lot of work. And I love the fact that you said, you'd found the victim role and you had to get out of that, because I think that's a big issue is a lot of people say, oh, well, you got to do it because you did X, Y, and Z. No, I worked my ass off. That's how I got there. And I feel like you're the same way. And, as with you, I want to bring up that next generation and build those leaders that are going to come behind me and hopefully have that same mindset to help other people continue to grow and live their best lives. So thank you for doing that. So anything you want to say to the listeners, any couple great takeaways of words of wisdom that you've learned that you think some of the women or men that listen could really utilize?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been thinking a lot about resiliency and how incredibly powerful it is when you have the ability to not just bounce back, but bounce forward from adversity. And there's just so much happening in the world right now, and things can be really, really tough. And it's easy to question if you can do it, if you want to do it, and how we build confidence and self-belief and and grow our competency zone is by doing those hard things. It's about being resilient. So yeah, I think if I was just going to leave, a key takeaway from everybody, besides the idea that owning everything in your life is the most empowering thing you can do for yourself, really working on building that resiliency, trusting yourself that you can do hard things, pushing yourself to do hard things. Like that's how we grow and get stronger and get more competent and prove to ourselves that we can get through anything that life throws at us. So that would be my parting words.
Well, that was a mic drop, Kerry. I mean, you couldn't have said it better. I mean, I appreciate that. And we all go through different things in life, and resilience is huge. And it's all about how you want to deal with it. And, are you going to learn? Are you going to get back up? And I love the fact that, at one time in your life, you were down and out. And now look at you, you've built this amazing company, a great life. You're just an amazing person. And thank you for helping others and being a great role model. So thank you so much for joining us. If the listeners want to reach out to you or learn more about you, Kerry, how can they do?
Yeah. So everything is on my website, kerrysiggins.com. The book is there. My podcast, Reflect Forward, is there. Chantell has been on it, so be sure to check out her episode. It was awesome. And then, it's all my social media handles. My email address is there. LinkedIn is also an easy place to be able to connect with me too. So just type in Kerry Siggins. And then of course, my book you can find on my website, but it's also on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, or you can go to your local bookstore and have them order it because I love supporting local businesses.
That's awesome. It is a great book. I had the opportunity to read it myself when it first came out. It was awesome. It was a game changer for me and had some great nuggets in there that I could deploy and implement in my own life and my own company. So thank you for doing that. Now, is there maybe another book on the horizon at some point?
Yeah, I'm working on it. Working on it. Okay, slowly but surely. I don't have a date yet. It's the first draft is done, but it still needs a lot of work. But I don't know. It probably won't come out in 2025, probably 2026, just because I've got a lot of other things that I'm doing, speaking so much and, building this really great company that we're going through. We're really disrupting our industry again for the third time. So, I've got other things to do besides writing, but that's where my real passion is. And so I get every little minute that I can get in to write, I do. So hopefully in 2026, I'll be back on and we can talk about my new book.
I don't even know how you do it all now, so I can't wait. Okay. Well, thank you, Kerry, for joining us. Have a great week. And thanks, listeners. Look up Kerry, buy her book. She's amazing. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Get Real, Get Results. Now get off your ass, get out there, and enjoy the life that you want to live. We're here if you need guidance. And until next time, do your best, enjoy the small victories, and stay unstoppable. And don't forget to visit chantellpreston.com for coaching or keynote booking information. And remember, you have to get real to get results.